And welcome to today's special interview. I'm Kylie Mowbray-Allen from Hello Media, and I'm thrilled to have Tara Haneveld from Scleroderma Australia and Scleroderma Queensland with us today. So we're going to be talking about the significance of National Sunflower Day. It's happening on the 6th of March, and it's a day dedicated to shining a light on scleroderma, which is a rare and challenging condition. It affects over 6,000 Australians. So on Sunflower Day, Scleroderma Australia illuminates more than 60 iconic locations across the country in a glorious, vibrant yellow glow. It symbolizes hope and solidarity for those living with the condition. And it's about coming together as a community to offer hope, understanding, and crucial support. So let's learn how each one of us can play a part in this fight against scleroderma. Tara, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here, and thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much, Kylie. It's a great opportunity to share with others about scleroderma. It's wonderful.
Awesome. Well, I've got a few questions. So, firstly, I'd love to know what was your journey when you discovered and uncovered that you had scleroderma, and then when you finally received a diagnosis?
So the amazing thing about scleroderma is everyone's journey to diagnosis is just as different as we all are as a group. So I was actually working as a nurse practitioner in an emergency department. And before I was moving into my new job, the family decided time for some long service leave. So we'll go overseas and have a nice time together before I moved into this new role. And so I had a lovely time overseas, but then came home and unfortunately I had an episode of viral encephalitis. So I was really very unwell in hospital out of the blue. And so I sort of was recovering from that, slowly but surely, getting used to my new brain. And then maybe 2 or 3 months later, I started getting like stiffness in my fingers and aches and pains and sore feet. And I talked to my colleagues at the time and said, look, I don't know what's going on. And they thought it was some weird viral sort of response and just getting used to things. So went on some steroids for a while and just wasn't getting any better. And eventually I said to my friend, who was also my GP, look, I don't know what's going on. And he said, I don't know what's going on either. But thought, okay, I know someone that might be able to find out more or know more about these weird things. I did all the usual tests of, looking at my capillaries, looking at my nerves, and they were all fine. So then I was referred to a physician who looked at me, had a poke and a prod, told me to turn my head and felt up my arms and said, yep, I think I know what it is. And I said, well, what is it? And he said, no, I'm not going to tell you until we do some more tests, because otherwise you'll Google it and you'll freak out. So I said, well, I'm going to Google it anyway from just what you've done. And he said, okay, I think it's something called scleroderma. And I went, what's that? I'd never heard of it. And sure enough, that's when I got the diagnosis for scleroderma. So it took for me about 6 months in total. So, but when I've talked to others in our community, that's a really quick diagnosis. For many of us, we've had to wait a lot longer. And I really am privileged that I know it's also because I was well known in the health industry. I was respected by my colleagues. I had great friends that knew that I wasn't someone that just, I don't know, makes things up or overreacts or whatever. And so that's why I think for me it was quite a swift process. And then I was referred into a rheumatologist and all the rest from there. So, yeah.
Wow. So, I think that when you said, what's that? It brought me back to when I first met you guys. I've been working with Scleroderma Australia for a few years now, and I also had never heard of it. So that's a really challenging thing, I'm sure, for most people, is that it's such an unknown.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's interesting. I mean, that I was diagnosed in 2010. So that's what, 15 years ago now. And at that time, look, none of my colleagues, none of the GPs had heard of it. So, but interestingly, since then, when I'd go in to see my GP for usual stuff, he'd say, "Look, I've got some medical students here. Do you mind if they come in and have a chat?" I said, "Sure, anything I can do to raise awareness of scleroderma, I'm all for." And increasingly over the last few years, I'm actually seeing that there's medical students that, have a look and have a poke and a prod. I mean, of course, now I'm a lot more symptomatic than I was then. But people are saying, "Oh, is it scleroderma or systemic sclerosis?" And I'm like, "Yes, great." So
Yeah,
it is getting better. I think with a lot of the stuff we're doing with the organisation, Scleroderma Australia and the state organisations, just getting the word out so it's not this bizarre thing that no one's ever heard of. There has been a change. Of course, we've got a long way still to go.
absolutely. So
Mm.
where do you find support, and how has being part of Scleroderma Australia, the organization, affected you?
Well, I've found support initially through my colleagues. My own medical and social network was great, but again, I was fortunate and I had that. But since then, I continued working and then worked in education for a while. But because of my scleroderma, I've had to retire from those things. And it was really when I retired, I thought there's got to be something more that I can do. There's got to be, I'd changed my sense of myself through my journey. And it was that was when I started looking for opportunities. And I actually was contacted by a member of Scleroderma Queensland. My family had to move up to Queensland because of my scleroderma, just to get into the warmer climate. I was really suffering down in Victoria where we were living. So I moved up, and I was actually on social media talking about, the frustrations with the pandemic and, people saying we shouldn't be doing this or we should be doing this. And I just reached out and said, "Look, I have an autoimmune disease called scleroderma, and these things are important to me." And that was the first time, someone from Scleroderma Queensland reached out and said, "Oh, do you know of Scleroderma Queensland?" And I was like, "No." And sure enough, that made the connection. And since then, I started working for Scleroderma Queensland, and it really has given me a sense of I can still use my skills and knowledge and my desire to make the world better for people with scleroderma in a positive way. So that's what I've found really, really wonderful. And now I'm linking in with support groups because I can see the value of having that connection outside of your own social world too, because you can be with other people experiencing scleroderma and you can talk honestly without being concerned about, I don't want to say the wrong thing in case my husband or my son or my mother gets worried. I don't want them to be fearful of my future. So I could actually be more open and honest with the scleroderma support groups, and then working with Scleroderma Australia, supporting the activities beyond that, has just given me a real new lease on life,
You've got a big role within Scleroderma Australia, haven't you?
Yeah, well, I'm the deputy chair of Scleroderma Australia now. So really supporting the activities that we're doing within the organisation. And there's some really exciting things happening on the horizon with the organisation moving forward too. And it's really been fabulous. And again, being able to bring in the skills that I've had in my past life. And that's the wonderful thing about the organisation. We've all come from such interesting backgrounds. We've all got amazing skills and things to offer the community. So together, we're making it much stronger, and that's a really exciting thing.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
So would you be happy to share how scleroderma affects your daily life, Tara?
Yeah, sure. I've got quite significant immobility with my hands and contractions, and I've lost a couple to the amputation with the Raynaud's. I've also got really tight skin, so really reduced mobility in my elbows and my hips and my knees and feet. I can't walk for long distances at all because of the pain and also shortness of breath. So it's those sorts of things. I'm got a level of fecal incontinence. I can't, toilet myself. I can't wipe my bottom, those sorts of basic things, and of course that has an impact on intimacy with my husband and those sorts of things. So yeah, they're the kind of things that having honest and open conversations and being supported through those elements is really key. Again, I'm so fortunate that my son was 6 when I was diagnosed, so he's come through the journey with us, and my husband is stuck around too, and so really, blessed that we've got those the ability to talk through those kinds of things. I'm an NDIS participant, and through the work of Scleroderma Australia supported me in going through that process moving forward as well. Because initially I was, no, I don't need that. I'm not disabled. But of course, yes, the concept of disability it shouldn't be a thing that you're not. Actually, realizing that this causes a level of disability and there's things to do to support that, to make the most out of your life and be the best you can be, is huge. So I'm an NDIS participant, which means a lot of those day-to-day things I'm supported in achieving without having to rely on loved ones. So I can still then be a mother, a family member, a wife, a daughter, because the NDIS can support in that. So yeah, that's how I mainly function to the best that I can, and the tiredness. I know, the lethargy and tiredness you get with scleroderma is so often just a side mention, but for many of us, and certainly for myself, that's a huge element as well. So being honest about when I can function well and when I need a break and need time out is really important as well. Communication,
Absolutely.
Mm.
So what would you say are some of the positives or perhaps the new perspectives that you've got from being in your support groups?
Well, support groups, as I said before, it's being open and honest and not feeling judged. But it's interesting, I think, coming to support groups, when I meet new members coming in, like newly diagnosed, you can see they're going, oh, am I one of you? I'm not that bad. Is this, we're all trying to like rate whether we deserve it, almost the opportunity to connect. And I think that's so key. It's that opportunity to connect, to share stories, to laugh, to get frustrated, to cry, but also to get access to the best up-to-date information, linking in with the state organisations and the key resources that can be shared in that space. I mean, that's often the thing. Until people come to a support group, they do feel alone. And then when you're with others, you realise that there's all these great resources. There's people that can talk through things. There's services that people aren't aware of, even government services, state services, but even things like the telehealth nurses and the scleroderma specialist clinics and the nurses involved with that, which of course is what Sunflower Day is all about, is trying to get more of that activity happening across the country. Until you're with a support group, you don't realise, and you're not alone. That's the thing, you're not alone. And also family members and partners, they get a huge thing out of support groups too, to see that they can also have conversations about how they should support or the frustration around that too, because scleroderma does impact more than just the person, Yeah. So yeah, they're invaluable.
Thank you. So what do you think would be the biggest challenge or the biggest challenges for people that are living with scleroderma? And I guess you could talk about yourself personally or the people that you know. What would be really the most frustrating challenge?
Gee, you look really well. That's honestly the most challenging thing, because you feel like you should thank them for saying that you're looking good. But really, you know, the lack of wrinkles, I say rejoice in wrinkles. The lack of wrinkles, yeah, you might look great, but, you know, it is very challenging because of that, the actual way it affects you and your organ. They can't see what's happening on your inside, you know. They can't see your issues with your gastrointestinal tract and trying to get adequate food and nutrition in, you know, the limitation of if you've got a small mouth, you know, those sorts of things. And there's others that'll say, but you don't look like you've got scleroderma. They might see people that have the typical look with the contractures and stuff, and then someone else has a lot of internal issues and stuff. So I think that's the biggest challenge, is we like to have a little label of what something looks like, but the diversity of what we have in the scleroderma community is just unbelievable, and how it affects different people at different times in different ways. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge. And again, that's why we're trying to do more and more around raising the awareness of what scleroderma is and the huge, range.
So if there was one thing that you absolutely wish that people knew about scleroderma, what would that one thing be?
That it exists and that it impacts so many people in such a variety of ways. But regardless of that, the isolation is one of the biggest challenges, that you're not alone, you know. We are there, people are out there, and we're here to support every single one of us in getting what we need, you know, getting what we need to make our lives the best lives they can be, you know? And that's probably the biggest thing.
So has there been a moment or something that you've achieved that's been really significant for you since you've had your diagnosis?
Well, certainly doing more in the linking in of the scleroderma community, Scleroderma Australia, into research, you know, and again bringing that knowledge and sharing that with our community, to try to get people to say, no, I've got scleroderma, I can be involved. I don't need to just hold on for dear life. I think getting that bigger community involved and activated, you know, that call to action, I think that's probably the biggest success. And also to see how my son has thrived, you know, as a young man, because he's had this life of growing up with a family that is working through disability and what that means, and adapting and supporting one another. And it's okay to say this is absolute crap, or no, this is okay, and have tears and all that sort of stuff. And what that's created in him as a young man, I think, is really something I'm personally proud of as well, you know.
Bet.
Yeah.
Good on you. So for you then, maybe it's actually your family and the people that you surrounded yourself with, I'm not sure, but how do you stay positive and motivated with living with scleroderma?
Well, I think it is that. I think it's allowing yourself to know this is not fabulous, you know, and let's not pretend it is, but see that there are things that I now am doing and contributing that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to do without scleroderma, you know, to really look at that big picture and remove what it's for me, but for everyone, and allow yourself to get that feedback and be in that space, you know. That's the wonderful thing about the work we've been doing in increasing the recognition of the importance of support groups as well. To say, no, this is so important to connect. And then seeing people being able to connect for the first time and just say, thank you, I thought I was alone. I thought no one understood. That's the biggest way to stay positive, when you hear that. And it gives me chills just thinking of it, really. And that's honestly what keeps me positive, is to allow myself to go, yeah, it's like us having this conversation. Isn't it beautiful that we can talk about this and stream it, and people are hopefully going to be listening to it and go, wow, I haven't heard of that. Maybe I'll look more into that. You know, it's
Yeah.
very powerful. That one person that you can influence in a positive way. Yeah, really, really enjoy that moment, you know.
Right.
Mm.
So before we talk about the excitement of what's coming up in a very short time, let's just say if there was one thing that you could say to someone that was brand newly diagnosed, say today, and then they saw this, what would be one message that you'd like to share with them?
Don't be shy. Okay, I know it's a scary diagnosis, and the first thing you do is Google it, and you get impacted by all sorts of stuff. Go to the source. Go to your state organisation or your Scleroderma Australia, and find out what's happening. You know, look at the resources there, but connect with the support. You know, you're not alone. We understand. We have been diagnosed. We know the overwhelming thing, and often because, you know, predominantly we're younger women. Predominantly, of course, there are men diagnosed. There are older people diagnosed. But you know, you are important. You know, you are important enough to connect for you. I think that's the key. Yep.
That's beautiful.
Mm.
What's the average age of someone when they get their diagnosis?
Oh, look, they're looking between the age of predominantly between 30 and 50 type age group. You know, that classic middle time
Oh,
when you're in your prime, really. Yep.
mm,
When you've got responsibilities of family, both the next generation and the generation before you, when you're right in the prime of your working life.
mm,
And of course, sadly, there's well, the good thing about better diagnosis and getting the word out there about scleroderma is there's more coming into our community. And also we're finding that there's more men coming into our community as well. So, you know, but we are here for everyone. That's the thing. Yeah. Yep.
right. So on that note, let's talk a little bit about what's coming up on the 6th of March. So it's
Yep.
Sunflower Day, which is Scleroderma Australia's Sunflower Day.
Yep.
And so firstly, why the sunflower? And secondly, why March?
Well, the sunflower's the international symbol for scleroderma, basically. And it's because just like the sunflower, we with scleroderma often suffer the cold terribly, you know, because of the changes in our blood supply in our fingers and things. When we get to the cold, we suffer Raynaud's and we have increased pain, which is shocking. So just as the sunflower always looks to the sun and follows the sun in the sky for the warmth, we similarly tend to follow the warmth. You
Beautiful.
know, so that's why it's the international symbol for scleroderma. And the international day is the 29th of June, is traditionally International Scleroderma Day, because of Paul Clear, famous artist, was a man who had scleroderma. And a lot of his artwork was inspired by his experience with scleroderma, which is great for people over in the Northern Hemisphere because it's nice and warm, lovely time of year to be getting out there and raising awareness for scleroderma. But I tell you what, in Australia, that's where we're all going down and trying to snuggle up as much as possible and just trying to keep warm. And it's the last thing we want to do. So there was a big survey put out to the scleroderma community a few years ago about should we change the date. And sure enough, everyone said, yes, please, we can't participate unless you change the date. So that's why March the 6th was chosen a couple of years ago, to then say, no, this is Sunflower Day, you know, so that the community can get increasingly involved in raising the awareness of Sunflower Day, and hopefully raising some needed funds to further facilitate scleroderma nurses across the country, so we can
Fantastic.
get greater support.
So let's talk a little bit about, well, firstly, before we talk about what people can do, how they can get involved, I'd like to delve into the nurses situation a bit. So
Yep.
my understanding is all the money that you guys need to be raising for this big event, or from this big event, is so that you can fund scleroderma nurses. Now, when I got told that that doesn't actually happen unless you guys fund it, it blew my mind. So can you talk a little bit more about that and help people understand what on earth is going on there?
Yeah, well, the scleroderma nurses are specific to the scleroderma clinics, and they facilitate also the ability for scleroderma patients to manage their care with the nurses, but also establish opportunities to participate in research by looking after a knowledge base of where we are in the country, what's going on with us. So it encourages research into our space as well. And that area of care is not funded by the government. So we then supplement that with our funds, so we can support that activity to do that. And so, for example, Queensland has now a scleroderma nurse that's been employed using this funding at the Gold Coast to participate in research and gathering data as part of the scleroderma clinic, and that's come out of the fundraising that's happened across Australia. So that's an example, and that's what we want to do to achieve in each state and territory, you know, that people have access at that level.
So other than donating, which obviously that's super important, and we'll be
Sure.
putting in the show notes from this, and also in the caption, there's a link there to the landing page for Sunflower Day on the Scleroderma Australia website. So other than donating, which of course we'd love everybody to donate. Imagine if every Australian over the age of 18 donated $1. What a phenomenal difference that would make. But other than donating, there's so many other ways that people can get involved. And for example, on March the 6th, on Sunflower Day, you could wear yellow. Somebody might say, tell me about the yellow. So here we are in our yellow. There's also a massive media kit on the website that you can download. It's free to anyone to access, with things like our digital screens that Tara and I have behind us. But there's also screens for your phone. There's posters you can print. I've got one here of the stickers. We can send these out, or you can send them out to everybody for free. And then you can put them on your cars, in shop windows. But tell people, what are some of the ways that they could get involved?
Well, we've been approaching businesses to look at putting up a poster about sunflower in the business. And you know, every little bit helps. That's the thing, you know. And talking to your local MP, you know, about Sunflower Day, with the hope that they can put that in the social media stuff, and share this stuff on your own social media profiles as well. Really get it out there, and the good thing is it opens those conversations as well. And you never know then what's going to happen. I mean, we're going to be having a sunflower morning, where we have a morning tea, where people are going to come together and invite their friends and family, and we're going to, you know, have a morning tea. And then sure, people can donate, but also it's to talk about scleroderma and what it means, so they can also think about, oh, what can I do to make a difference. So there's those sorts of things, and every little bit helps. Like you said, every little bit assists, you know, in raising awareness, putting the word out there.
For sure. Now, in that media kit, there's also a bunch of social posts, captions, videos. So imagine if everybody living with scleroderma in Australia was to post on their personal profile with just one of those videos or one of those posts, and did a little bit of edutaining with people. So, you know, make it informative, make it interesting, and share what's going on out there, because we don't know what we don't know. And so it's so important. The more awareness that we can all raise and all be involved in that together, the better it's going to be for everybody. But there's one, sorry.
I was thinking too, even like my son knows about Sunflower, so he's going to share it in his social network, you know, to just put it out more broadly. And you never know. And we have had circumstances where we've shared it, and then someone has said, oh, my mother has scleroderma. Oh, is she linked in with us at all? Does she know what's available? I don't think so. And then sure enough, we've been able to help that person
Wow.
join the community as well. You just never know, it is true.
Fantastic. Now, there's one really cool thing that happens on Sunflower Day that we haven't touched on, and that is the lighting up and the glowing of landmarks around Australia.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit about that, because I know there's already a huge number. I was just reading what the number was that was confirmed by last night, so that's super exciting. So
Yeah.
tell everybody about what happens there.
Well, Scleroderma Australia is reaching out to all the states and territories for their light up. Many councils and businesses have the opportunity to light up for causes. And because we're a small volunteer organisation, but we are a total not-for-profit charity organisation, they're really keen to support us and support our cause. So we've been approaching them, and we've already had, as you said, many people agreeing to light up. And what we really want is also, we're going to publish who's doing that on our website. And we'd love our community to go out on the evening that they're lighting up, take some photos, share it with us, share it with their own social media. And again, you start those conversations, and we get the word out there around Scleroderma and Sunflower Day. So yeah, it's an exciting thing we do, and we're always keen to, if there's other businesses that have the opportunity, let us know that we mightn't even have in our contact lists that could do that. I know last year there was a great business that just wanted to do what they wanted to, so they put their shop in yellow, and they offered a donation for everything purchased, and yeah, it's great. So many opportunities to support.
That's a key fact, isn't it? Is take photos, because
Yeah.
there's some really cool videos that we've put together showing you what happened last year and the year before, and people taking selfies wearing yellow with a tree all lit up in yellow, or
Yep.
an amazing monument lit up in yellow. It's incredible how many people get involved in this. But the more that you can take a photo, post it online, use the hashtags, you can find all those in the show notes as well. It
Yep.
just helps to spread that awareness. And that's really the key here, is sharing so that we can connect and form a stronger community, as well as, of
Totally.
course, fund those dedicated scleroderma nurses, which are just so desperately needed.
Absolutely. No, it's a win-win.
So what are you going to be doing? What's your involvement this year, Tara?
Well, we're going to have that gathering of what we do is we try to get all our support group leaders and support groups together on that one day, and we come to a central location to do that. And this year we're also going to stream that via Zoom for other support groups more distant, so we can have sort of a gathering that way. And yeah, we've approached a few businesses, and they're really keen to support as well. And there's a local sunflower farm that's a little bit north of Brisbane that's really keen to support it's their harvest time, so they're really keen to support it on that day as well, and put some advertising for Scleroderma Australia out there. Wonderful. As well, and with the QR codes too, so people can just walk through the garden and just click on that and make a small donation as well. So we've got a few things in the pipeline. So
the donation can be as small or as large as you want. Every single little bit helps.
Absolutely, absolutely. If anything, COVID's taught us that we can't necessarily, come together in big numbers. The ability for that, every little bit to come to a big whole is huge. It really is.
Absolutely. So we really encourage you to head to the sclerodermaaustralia.com.au website. On there, you'll find there's a link there that you can find the page that tells you about the history of the day, what's happening, what are the different places and monuments and landmarks that are lighting up, how you might want to get involved. There's a survey you can complete. You can request vinyl stickers to be sent to you. There's so many different things, but there's also a link for you to go and buy some merch. So you can wear your Sunflower Day yellow t-shirts and other fun things. So yeah, please head to the website, sclerodermaaustralia.com.au. And Tara, thanks so much for chatting with me today and sharing some of your journey. It's incredibly moving to listen to your talk, and I just bet you're just feeling chuffed to bits with your glorious life and your glorious family and all the incredible work that you're doing to support others on this journey with you.
No, thank you, Kylie. It's a lovely opportunity to talk and connect. Yeah, really appreciate
Well,
it.
happy Sunflower Day coming up very soon. Look
Thank
forward
you.
to shining brightly and wearing some more yellow.
That's it. Wear the yellow.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thanks,
for listening,
everyone.
everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.